Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be talking about some relatively recent leaks about Xbox, the original Xbox, and Xbox 360 games coming to PC, most likely through the Game Pass is what I would be guessing. We're going to be on Dexerto today, and this is written by Dalen Hortiski. Thank you for the article. It'll be linked down in the description if you'd like to check it out for yourself. So the title goes, New Leak Suggests OG Xbox and Xbox 360 games coming to PC. Now, I think this is really cool because it's really hard to get especially original Xbox games and 360 games. And I think they're kind of just missing a market because I feel like the old school games nowadays are a really big deal. And a lot of people, I feel like, at least on the internet and where places where people like to talk, people are kind of like yearning for older school games. And I think OG Xbox and 360 games are kind of some of the games that people want. A lot of people, at least online, through Twitter, Reddit, all those normal places, are kind of sick of always online multiplayer, battle pass ridden free to play games, and a lot of people are kind of just enjoying single player games again. And there's a lot of good ones on the original Xbox or 360, but the only way to get them is basically through like finding them on like Facebook Marketplace or eBay and stuff like that, you know? So it kind of makes sense for them to try to find a legitimate way for them to make money to actually get these games on there. Assuming. Just before we get into the article, I like to remind everyone, please subscribe to the channel. 95% of people that watch my videos aren't subscribed, so I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, and we're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers. Once we do, I'll be doing a Q&A video, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Notable YouTuber and leaker xtiz1 says Xbox is working on a new Xbox Classic program that brings games from the Xbox 360 and OG console to PC, console, and cloud. That is pretty exciting. I'm almost positive it's going to be input into the Game Pass subscription service. It makes sense. It kind of like adds even more content to that game. My interesting thought on this is how they're going to get the rights to this game, because like obviously not all the games were made by Microsoft, so it'd be interesting to see how they can get the rights to the games and stuff like that, which is going to be really interesting to see if they can actually get that. The YouTuber revealed the Xbox backwards compatibility project in a video on Thursday, June 19th, and explained how Microsoft may be making it happen. In the upload, X-Ray says this spoke with a source that works inside Xbox that they were working on an ambitious project which is currently being referred to as Xbox Classic. The project is reportedly focused on emulating original Xbox and Xbox 360 games and should be offering big benefits across multiple systems. Personally, I think that would be really good because I mean, even just the games that Microsoft themselves made, like it says even down here, like the Fables, the Gears of Wars. I mean, I guess technically the Master Chief Collection does exist, but like even like the original Xbox Halo games, not everyone has played those because we have to remember the video game industry is now really old. There are people who were born and the 360 or the Xbox One was their first console. So like some people haven't played the OG Xbox games, and I feel like some of those games would be really cool. And they're also catching on a market that doesn't really, it's really difficult to emulate OG Xbox and 360 games. It's at least more difficult to emulate compared to like old school NES games and stuff like that. So they're kind of like putting themselves in the market where some people would love to play OG Xbox games, but they can't. And they can't even do they can't even go through other means to actually play them. So like if their way is just easier, that's the way to fight it. Like that's one of the biggest problems I have with like Nintendo's constantly cracking down on stuff like this. It's because it's really hard to play those games. And I mean, kind of they have a system with the whole subscription service for their Nintendo stuff, but like one of the reasons so many people do that other ways to play games is because it's just impossible to play them otherwise. So this might be a really good market to grab into. If this leak is true, that means Xbox and Xbox 360 games are finally coming to PC, as the YouTuber says Microsoft is working through the popular Xena emulator team to make it possible. He didn't share the full list, but says popular games like Fable 2, Skate 3, Gears of War 3, and Def Jam Fight for New York are being optimized and or considered for the new program. I would love all the Skate games to come to PC. I've talked about it in other videos where I talk about the upcoming Skate 4. I really want to play the Skate 1, 2, and 3 again, but the problem is that it's impossible to play them unless you already own them. And I do own them, but it's so hard to play them sometimes because like the resolution is so bad now, and it's not terrible, but it'd be nice to be able to play it on my PC. And honestly, I've never played the Fable games, so that's I've never played the Fable games or the Gears of War games, and honestly, I don't remember what Def Jam is. I remember that name, but I don't actually remember that game, which is interesting. Some other games that I would love to see it on. There's this old Magic the Gathering game on the OG Xbox, Magic the Gathering Battlegrounds, that I really loved. The old Mech Assault games would be amazing on PC, I think, as well. Mech Assault 1 and 2. That'd be really cool to see. The Star Wars Knights of the Republic 1 and 2. I guess there's already technically ways to play those on PC, technically, but if it'd make it easier, then that's another big thing. It's unknown when Xbox fans will see the games come to PC, but Extras says that they'll be announced in 2026 to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the brand. That does make sense. This comes with after the announcement of Xbox handheld collaboration with Asus and the launch of the new software experiencing the focus on Xbox games within Windows. On June 17th, Xbox revealed that they are officially working on its next-gen devices, including a new console, and the plans to elevate the experience by putting a focus on Windows as a gaming platform. Yeah, the reveals of the new consoles, or like the new next-gen consoles, are kind of weird because it feels like this gen of consoles, like the Xbox Series and the PlayStation 5, has barely started because there isn't really that many exclusive games to each console. Xbox, to, you know, give them credit, are starting to ramp up, but it feels like they're just starting. Like, it feels like the hype cycle of this current gen right now basically never really happened, which is kind of weird. And, you know, COVID does have some, like, the pandemic does have some reasoning for that, but it feels like there just wasn't a lot of games released exclusively by these big companies. But I also think it's because of the AAA industry kind of like almost eating itself at the moment for the past couple years, and indie games, and like the pure indie games where it's like the 1 to 5 people studios with like very little money and just kind of like passion to make it. Those games have been selling crazy amounts, and more people are looking at them. And like I feel like the AA scene has really hit its stride with like games that are focused, knows exactly what they want to do, and are doing it for like at the most expensive like tens of millions of dollars generally, you know, or some even get to like hundreds of millions, but most of the time it's not even close. It's mostly tens of millions of dollars, which, you know, in terms of money, what I'm talking about is an insane amount of money. But for big projects like a video game, when you're have a team of like 30 people or something like that, or 100 people, I guess 100 people is kind of pushing it for AA, but like that's a pretty decent budget, and you can make that money back if the game is relatively successful. Like I think the biggest right now, at least the biggest example of that game is Claire's Obscure Expeditions 33. That game was on a very modest budget, and they made the money back, and they're celebrating. They're selling tons of copies and players with Xbox Game Pass and stuff like that. So that's a really big success story. So I feel like the AA scene has kind of like caused this gen to like feel kind of weird, and I feel like Xbox kind of knows that. I mean, the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the brand is a good idea to have like the OG Xbox games and 360 games to people who haven't played them yet, because I think there's a lot of people that would be willing to play these games if they could, and it wasn't such a hassle to play them. Because I think the biggest barrier to entry is you have to have an original Xbox to play it and the game itself, and that is not easy to get. You have to go through the third-party sellers like the eBays, the Facebook marketplaces, any place like that, and then you would have to worry about like setting up the cables and stuff, because the OG Xbox doesn't have the same problem as stuff like the GameCube where you really want a tube TV. I think you do. I think the Xbox prefers tube TV, like the OG Xbox. The 360 I don't think has that problem, and the 360 is slightly easier to get. The problem is that you have to run through the problem of sometimes you buy a 360 and it's got the red ring, which is really annoying, but that isn't generally a huge problem. I think the main thing is that there's really nowhere to buy these games unless you go through the third party stuff, and like sometimes they're stupid expensive, like $100+ for games, and I don't agree with that price tag for new games, and let alone old games. But I'm also not that type of person to collect stuff that's very expensive, so I guess I'm not really the market for that. But I'm glad to see, if this is true, I'm glad to see this is happening, because Xbox is coming here for a market that I think is untapped, and I think a lot of people would really enjoy that, especially if you could play it not only on all their systems with their whole Windows Play Anywhere thing. So it would be really cool to be able to play the original Xbox game and the 360 games anywhere you want. And I'd be really interested to see what games they can get on there. I really hope all the skates are on there, because I'd really enjoy playing those games. Again, easier on my PC, which would be great. All the Gears of Wars, because I've never actually played them. The Fables, which would be really cool, especially with the new Fable game apparently still being in the works. So hopefully they get them out relatively soon. Thank you everyone for watching today's today's video. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers, and once we do, I'll be doing a Q&A video. If you're interested in that, please subscribe. Like the video if you liked it. Dislike it if you dislike it. I understand. You just heard my opinion. I would love to hear your opinion down in the comments down below. What you think about this whole Xbox stuff. And I think it's a great idea, if you couldn't tell. But, you know, I'd love to hear your opinion on it. If you'd like to follow me on other places, I have a Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, and Threads, all at the Techno Jelly. Thank you everyone for watching, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye, everyone.